wrote a short story called Traumatic Descent. And David Slade and he tried to develop that into a feature film that they tried to get going for years. And the screenwriter of the feature film passed away. And so David came to me with the story, and he and Lawrence then wrote the screenplay for this. So it was something he'd been wanting to do for years.
And Alejandro, tell me a little bit about your skip, because I love them all, but yours is like everything I grew up loving, like a slasher movie, a Cabin in the Woods movie, aliens, parasites. Is it the movie? And also, just into the third act. Like, let's skip the boring stuff and get right to it. So where did that come from for you? Is that a movie you've always wanted to make?
I wish I could tell you where that came from. I mean, where we were shooting, I would be looking at the stuff that we were doing all the time, and I was like, where did this come from? I mean, I have no clue. I'm really not good at short stories. I usually, when I sit down, I write features, and so I didn't know what to do, and I was very intimidated by the other four gentlemen. So I said I'm gonna do the third act of a slasher. Because I mean, you have seen hundreds of slashers, and so you see a girl running in the woods, you see the masked killer, you know where you are. But it couldn't just be the third act of a slasher. I knew I wanted it to be something else. And one day I was driving and it hit me. I said, "It's aliens." And I called my wife and I said, "Hey, I have this story," and she was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. Go ahead." And then I called Mick and we sat down and I told him the story, and he also liked it. And I said, and we were actually talking, and it came up like, I don't have a title, and we were talking, and it's kind of like The Thing in the Woods. Oh, that's the title. So,
well, you had me at Space Spiders.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things. I grew up probably watching the same films. So obviously, I'm wearing Cabin in the Woods shirt. So yeah, I tried to do my best. Sam Raimi, I guess. I tried to pay a homage to the slashers. In this case, I think probably there's a lot of Friday the 13th Part 6 there.
Whose writer-director Tom McLaughlin is here tonight as well.
Oh. Thank you for that. That's my favorite.
I love the spider leg POV.
That, when we were in prep, I said I want this shot to be like the shot in Evil Dead. And K&B, they were doing our effects, and they said, "Oh, we have the guy that did the rig for Raimi. He will do something for you." And then they built this thing with the spider legs, and well, Howard Berger said if this was Sam Raimi, he would call this something like the Arachnocam. And that's what we were calling it the whole time. The Arachnocam. That was really cool.
So who shot their segment first, and did that influence the other directors? Because I know on Masters of Horror, it almost became once one of you guys went, everybody wanted to top the last guy. So who shot first?
I am.
Oh, and by the way, you shot in the church from the fog, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
the original fog.
The original fog. Let's not confuse that. So you went first. So you kind of set the bar high, at least on blood level.
Yes, I did, and blood level, madness level. Because
shit level.
When Mick lined us all up, I just knew what is my job. I mean, David Slade, I mean, we kind of know what he's gonna do, and I have no idea what kind of story he's gonna do, but it's David Slade, He has his own style, and of course, Joe Dante and Mick, and I love his first movie, Alejandro's first movie, so I know, whatever he do, he's gonna do the crazy thing, but it's very different from my style, so I kind of knew what I have to do, so it's just madness, chaos, and blood and violence, and just kill everybody. So that's what I did.
I was amazed that without trying, we got an R rating the first time out. The slaughtering of children is no longer taboo.
Believe it or not, but I was the one asking producer, are you really sure that you let me do my job? And you know I'm very good in doing this. Somehow producers, nobody stopped me, so.
By the way, the fact that Ryuhei was the first, like when we were in prep, sometimes I would look at all the stuff that we had to do in mine, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so difficult. And everyone was like, this is nothing. You should see what we just did with Ryuhei. This is nothing.
The same director of photography did Alejandro's and Ryuhei's, and he's here tonight.
So it was, you know, a funny thing that the lead, we had an amazing lead, you know, Mariela, and we also have
Where is she?
I mean, in 2 years, she's a grown-up, beautiful lady now, you know, Stephanie. But before we had Mariela, you know, we had a different lead, and she just pissed me off a lot. So it was, I think it was like Thursday, you know, morning. I called Mick and said, Mick, you know what? Let's fire the bitch. And we were supposed to start shooting on Monday, and it was Thursday. But I explained, you know, how this bitch keep on, you know, pissing me off. And again, like I said at the beginning, Mick always supported me, so he's like, all right, let's fire her. So we fired.
Hear Mick say, let's fire that bitch.
Let's fire.
So we fired her, but then we had to find somebody like now, and that's when, you know, I called my casting director. She's out. You know, find me somebody, you know, good, somebody best, and Marietta was there, and she was his friend.
Let me do the story. Because you fucked me up. Good. But it was like, I mean, it happened like that with Ryuhei the whole time. So Mariela and I are friends, and we have been wanting to work together for some time. And I wanted to cast her, so I sent her to the casting, and then I had to go that day. And when I'm arriving, she's leaving, and I'm like, how did it go? And she's like, oh great, I'm gonna meet the director now. I'm like, what? What do you mean you're gonna meet the director? Yeah, I'm gonna meet with Ryuhei. I'm like, fucking Ryuhei. I said that a lot in this movie. I had a ton of shots to do, and they were like, oh, Ryuhei just did 100 setups in one day. And I'm like, fucking Ryuhei. but you know, at the end, what we did is we found Sarah Withers, who is also here, and she was marvelous. And I want to do a ton of movies with her because she's fantastic.
So this guy kept on attacking me. You stole my actress. Then he lost his DP. So you know what? I'm gonna pay back. So I give you my Matthias.
Oh, it's your Matthias now, right?
Yeah, we're buddies, so we help each other.
Wow, is the whole shoot like this?
I did say fucking Ryuhei a lot.
I would be remiss in not mentioning Anthony Russo, the director of photography. Andrew Russo, I'm sorry, the director of photography on Dead and the wraparounds, and Joe Dante's segment Ferrari, and he did an amazing job.
Since David Slade isn't here, let's talk about him. And I actually mean that in the nicest way. So, you know, the fun thing about anthologies is tonally, you can get away with whatever you want. You can have a straightforward, you know, scary story. You can just go crazy, slasher fun. His kind of blew me away because it felt like David Lynch directing a Twilight Zone episode. And also it's in black and white. So you as the producer, how does all those things I just said as a pitch get through into the movie?
Well, a lot of movies like Tales from the Crypt or a TV series like, they go for a unified sort of feel and look and all. And I wanted the opposite of that. Like with Masters of Horror, I wanted to get directors who each had a vision and a style, and were going to bring something of their own personality. And we would bind it together as well as we could with the wraparound segments. But interesting story with Slade. He had just done Black Mirror, the robot dog one in black and white. And he told me, I'm going to shoot this in black and white. And I'm going to use cameras that only shoot black and white, which I didn't know existed. And I said, great, let's not tell the producers. And until we showed it to them, and they go, "Oh, this is great." And it was, because most producers are going to say, "Black and white? No way, no way." But the way we made this movie was, you know, they let us. We made this for very little money, but that meant everybody could have freedom doing like we did on Masters of Horror. And I really encouraged. I didn't want them reading each other's scripts or anything like that, because I wanted them to be encouraged to do what they do best, and that's why this, if you like this movie, that's why.
And so when did you guys all see it together? They were unaware until they were all done?
Well, I saw it when we were mixing. I was the last one mixing, and when we were done mixing mine, they said, "Okay, let's watch the whole movie." And I was like, "Okay, let's watch it."
For everybody, it was at the Montreal Fantasia Festival is when everybody saw the whole movie for the first time all the way through together. And that was kind of an amazing experience that felt a lot like this because everybody was there. You know.
Why don't we ask is there any questions from the audience for any of these fine gentlemen? I mean, I can't see anybody, so just I trust you to shout out if you want. Or if not, don't be shy.
How did you find your composers? Were
Composers.
they somebody the producers picked, or did each of the filmmakers go, "I want this composer"?
Good question. I love music and movies, so I mean, how did you each come upon your composer?
So I work with Kyle Newmaster, who is there, and he's fantastic. And I had worked with him before. I had worked with him before in ABCs of Death, and I just loved working with Kyle. And so I didn't hesitate. I was like, "Let's do this." And I'm really happy with the work he did. I said to him, "I want this to sound like a blockbuster. I want it to sound big," and he did. So, yeah.
Your composer? Yours felt like it had a little bit of a goblin feel to it. Like it's so interesting. It was like, almost like part exorcism, and then let's throw a little Italian horror with the goblin style score.
That's what I wanted to do. So my composer Aldo Chirac is here. And also that just heavy rock guitar is done by Toshi Yanagi. He's the guy who plays the guitar on Jimmy Kimmel Show every night. So I got a power team there, and we kind of did almost like a live jam session recording. We played the rough cut and Aldo's studio now to give the direction, and Toshi hit this and that, and they were playing as they were watching the movie. So it was great.
And my usual composer, Nicholas Pike, was not available, and I think was too expensive. Everybody did this for very low money. But I had worked with Richard Band on my second episode of Masters of Horror, and of course he's famous for doing Reanimator and Stuart Gordon movies. He's done a lot of really great stuff, and I knew I wanted to go in an orchestral way, sort of like Alejandro did, to give it some scope and some size. And so we'd worked together before, and then he did mine, and then Joe Dante's. Joe really liked Richard as well, and then David brought in some. Actually, Nancy Leopardi, our producer, suggested a composer to David, who was just basically kind of a noise sound guy, but doing it in a beautifully orchestrated way. So Nancy is the one who introduced him. So it was the first time David had worked with this composer, and it turned out great.
Yeah. Any more questions from the audience?
Because I'm from Mexico, Latino, so Sandra Becerril, can you tell me about working with Sandra Becerril, the writer?
She's amazing. I mean, she's here, and I think she should. She's not only the writer, she's the director, and she also writes the book. And I really think that Sandra, you should start acting. No, I mean, it's if you know Sandra, I mean, she's the nicest person on earth. And so when I read the script of this machine, I was like, really, seriously, this twisted story came from that beautiful lady. So, but me and Sandra and Mick, we always have fun, just talking on the phone and meet each other and just trading the ideas. So it was just a blast working with her.
Any more questions?
Now's your
Can't
chance.
see or hear. Well, Mick, why do you? I mean, obviously you've done a lot of narrative stuff and television and all kinds of stuff over the years, but between Masters and Fear Itself and now Nightmare Cinema, you seem to keep coming back to the horror anthology. What is it about anthology storytelling that you feel kind of drawn back to it?
I just love standalone stories, you know, whether it's an hour-long TV series or something like this. The only way we got this made was because it was an anthology. The intent was to do it as an hourly series. And then the idea was a series of Nightmare Cinema Presents 90-minute features that would be, you know, John Carpenter's so-and-so, Ryuhei Kitamura's so-and-so, Alejandro Brugues' so-and-so. But none of those all seemed too ambitious. And after all these years, the only way we could find funding for it was to cram everybody into one movie together in the hopes that that would lead to continuing with sequels, and we're talking about Nightmare Cinema 2 now, but we're also talking and we're also in discussions about doing it as a series with an international bent of having, you know, different gender and nationality and ethnicity filmmakers and getting the widest possible points of view. But I just love self-contained stories so much more than like a TV series that continues and you become part of that happy family every week, you know. Just the variety of the broad umbrella that covers the horror genre is something I find really exciting.
Well, I think to ensure that we get that sequel, I think it's important that everybody in this room talk about the movie on social media publicly.
Please.
This is in theaters this Friday.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tonight.
Now. And what about VOD or physical? This is going to be on Shudder.
Well, not for several months, but it is on iTunes, Google Play, Vudu, Amazon, all of the pay-per-view, the VOD platforms as of right now. So buy it, share it, talk to your friends.
Rate and review, because
Please.
everything is algorithm-based, which sucks. But if you review something, it'll help get more visibility on this movie. So,
Yes, please.
Please
Thank
do.
you. Yeah.
Any last questions before we? I know it's kind of late. Right here up front.
How did you guys choose K&B and Vincent Van Dyke effects?
Question was, how did we choose K&B and Vincent Van Dyke effects? The guys in K&B are really good friends. They did Masters of Horror for 2 years. They did Riding the Bullet with me. They did so much work with me. And they love this stuff. We knew we couldn't afford them, but Howard and Greg are such good friends, and they brought in Karen Jackson to run everything. And they're just the best. They work in every budgetary level possible. And they were so busy on this that we had to go to another house for David Slade's episode. And that's how we went to Vincent Van Dyke's show. And I am so proud of the practical effects in this movie. You know, you would never believe what we paid to get this unbelievably high quality.
That came out great. Yeah, I mean, is there anything for each of you? Can you kind of tell us what's next in store for you? And obviously, there's a lot of people involved with the film here today. So if there's one thing you want to say now that we're at the end of this long journey, what would you care to share with us about the experience of Nightmare Cinema?
It's well, I said it in the introduction, but it's the best experience I've had. I mean, we had a great team, we had a great cast, and we had so much fun shooting. And it's one of those things where it feels like a miracle because all the pieces are falling in the right place, and everything looks even better than I imagined, and it just felt right the whole time, which is so unusual, and it's a shame that it was so short because I just wanted to keep shooting and shooting, and I don't know, it was the best experience I've had.
It was such an honor to be invited by amazing master Mick Garris and work with those super talented and super nice human being. So I always felt that this was like a part of the big family, and that K&B reminded me that the day I was shooting the crazy climax fight at the church, I asked him that, can you guys just bring me the blood pump and body parts you used in Kill Bill?
I wanted to ask that too. You got that blood?
And that's what they did. So every day I was like exploding in the blood, throw the chopped off head, arm, and leg, and that was like super fun. So Ali said that he wished it was a future and kept on shooting. But to me, I don't know. I'm a little bit older than him, but making the feature film is very, very hard. So to me, it was very good. In and out, 5 days shoot. We each got the 5-day shoot. So me and my DP, Matthias, we just came back last Saturday night from Romania. We were there for almost 3 months making an action movie over there, and we just came back and we were both exhausted. So I really feel like I want to do the part 2 and just in and out and do this 5-day shoot instead of the 3 months in other side of the world. But anyway, it's been very honored, and I had a blast, and I really I know that Matthias and Alejandro, they writing the script together. And me and Mick wrote the script together, so we are like a family, and we keep on doing this. And me and Mick even trying to do same kind of this in Japan and Korea and China, Asian version of Nightmare Cinema kind of things. So I'm sure that we will team up again.
Why does he get an Asian version and I don't have a Caribbean version of this?
I didn't tell you
He gets a
about
Kill
that
Bill
yet.
blood, he gets everything.
I didn't tell you about that yet.
It's just a pure fun, Thank you so much.
I just want to say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, this is the best, most talented group of people I have ever worked with in doing this for over 30 years now. And I love you all, and I thank you so much for everybody making such a great contribution.
Well, I can't top that, so thank you very much. I know it's late, but thank you all the filmmakers for coming out tonight. Thank you for supporting this. And please go rate, review, and tell everybody about Nightmare Cinema.
Thank you, Rob Galluzzo.
Thank you very much.